Good day guys, welcome back. It's me Nate, thanks for tuning in. Today we're back to DCS. We're covering the takeoff and line-up procedure visual and a quick circuit in the DCS Hawk. As I said before, I won't cover the startup procedure or the taxi procedure because that's very simple and straightforward and you can probably read up in the manual yourself. It's not very long, it takes like 2 minutes. But I will cover the very basic circuit, just to let you know how what you should expect to see and what you should expect to do in the approach. Right now, so we've got a clean configuration today. You can see my AI partner here. I'm in the quick mission, free flight day. The first thing you want to do before takeoff is obviously line up with the runway. Once you're on the runway lined up, you don't need to put the flaps into the takeoff position, which is this little switch here. You've got now this is the flap indicator and the little white line. If I zoom in using my number pad key, which is very inconvenient, this one, here we go. Now that's in the fully up position, and that's and in the reverse is fully down. So that's mid, that's fully down. So we want the mid position. Let's put it in the middle. There we go. I haven't messed this up. You shouldn't be messing with flap switches like this. It's really bad for the system. Let me zoom and zoom. Right, and that is actually everything else. I mean, obviously the lights and the system need to be done, but this should all be done in the startup procedure. So once you're on the runway, nav lights on, runway clearance obtained, all that kind of stuff, there you're good to go. Now the first thing you do is you hold the brakes down and then you push the power further forward. This means the engine is starting to spool. So because it takes a little bit of time for the engine to reach the RPM it needs and start generating the thrust. So you put it at 80% and just give it like a couple of seconds. I think it's like 6 seconds or something is the delay you expect for an engine to between your action of pushing the throttle forward and the actual expected thrust you're expecting. So once it's there, I'm going to push it to 100% and then release the brakes. We're going to be trying to rotate about 90 knots and 100 knots. Obviously, I'll release the brakes now. Obviously, if you're fully loaded, if you've got bombs or rockets, that number goes up. You don't want to be rotating too early, otherwise you'll just stall, put the plane back down the runway. Now, so you can see the airspeed indicator is moving, and there's 90 knots. So pull up a little bit, start pulling those up. 10 knots, we're wheels up. Right, gears up, which is up here, flaps up. Right, we're good. Cool. So gears up, flaps up, so we're good to go. Airfield elevation is about 600, 100, so 600 I'll turn left. I'll cut the power back a little bit. We want to be in the circuit about 200 knots. 200 knots is the speed where the maximum flap and gear extension speed, so that's a good speed to be cruising at. You want to be on base, according to the manual, you want to be base at about 160 knots. Base is the final leg before the final. I know that sounds confusing. Two finals. There's too many finals in that sentence. All right, I'm just going to track out a little bit because I think I'm a bit too close. I'm not used to flying a big plane like this in the circuit. Push the speed back. Now, one thing you do need to check when you're on the circuit approach is that make sure that these are in 0. If these are above 10, you need to turn the anti-skid off. But because they're both at 0, we need to turn the anti-skid on. So there's the anti-skid. Now it's on. Right, I'm going to track out a bit more and lower my altitude. We probably want to be about 1,600 feet, so I'm just push it right back and descend. You really want to be about 1,500 feet above the runway surface. I think the elevation is 100 feet, so you want to be about here, a bit more lower. That's okay, as long as you guys get in the rough idea of the speeds and altitude, you can probably do this yourself and work it out yourself. Right, so we're now turning on to base. So this is where we want to put the flaps down. We'll make sure we're below the flaps extension speed, 200, which is fine. So let's put the flaps down, one stage of flap. We don't put the brakes. I don't want to put the gears down yet because I don't like having it down so early because I want to be established before I put the gears down. But I can put them down now, and that would give you the advantage of having everything set up. So there we go. A bit more. So 3 greens, gears are down, flaps, one stage of flap. Let's turn final. I put the flaps down now. Final stage of flaps. Final. Now that looks like a good approach. So our speed's a little bit low. We'll push it, but you can see we're doing 130 knots. The recommended speed is about 100 and the minimum control speed it's rated is 109 knots. So we really want to be pushing a bit more power here. Once the flaps and gears are down, this is going to generate a lot of drag. So you're going to be needing to control the power and attitude accordingly. So we're losing altitude slowly. I'm dragging it a little bit here, but The approach is okay. Speed's probably a bit better now. There we go. We don't want to be too fast because this is not a long runway. So I mean, we want to be about 130-ish knots. So I'm going to pull that right back very gently. I'm a little bit high, so I'm going to push my nose down, pull the throttle right back. And that's a much better looking runway there. So there we go. And push the power forward again. 120. And flare. And there we go. Hold the nose up a little bit for idle. Hold the nose up to use the aerodynamics. There we go. Those will come down naturally. If you hold the nose up, there'll be a lot of drag, and that will slow your plane down. You can see I did not use very much runway. We came in with a reasonable, good speed, and using the aircraft to the aerodynamics of the aircraft to bring it to a halt. I haven't put the brakes on, hold the brakes at all in the slightest here. I'll put them now just to demonstrate to you. We use very little of the runway. Brakes on, tap the brakes. You can see with the use of kept our flaps down and pulled the nose up a little bit. We used the aircraft's aerodynamics to naturally put the aircraft to a stop. And we only used half the runway there, and that's probably a couple hundred meters, which is actually very, very impressive for a jet aircraft. All right, guys. Well, and obviously now you taxi off the runway. So there we have it. That's a fairly simple approach. Just to do a quick recap, you want to rotate about 90 knots, and then you want to do 160 on base. So you want to be cruising in the circuit about 200 knots. Because you can safely put gears and flaps down at 200 knots without risk of damaging them or breaking them off. And then you want to be over the threshold, probably about 130 knots or so. And the only thing to remember, like I said, is to check the brake pressure and making sure the anti-skid is on correspondingly. If the brake pressure is on 0, you need to put the anti-skid. You can put the anti-skid on. If the brake pressure is above 0, the anti-skid needs to be off. And I think that actually covers everything as far as circuits go. I will do an instrument landing at some point in this thing. This is a really fantastic aircraft. I'm absolutely loving it. It's just so nice to have a trainer aircraft just to cruise around. It's very agile, handles well, visibility is great, and it's good. So hope to see more of this in the future. All right, guys. Well, until next time, it's Nate out.